Good morning, podcasters. Today we're talking about press releases. Hello, good morning, guten tag. Good morning, podcasters. This is a short, semi-weekly podcast about podcasting. My name is Fuzz Martin. I am a partner and the Chief Strategy Officer at Epic Creative near Milwaukee. And being a Chief Strategy Officer means that I help clients build their best marketing and advertising strategies to meet the audiences that they're trying to reach. I oversee our account management team, our social media team, our media buying and planning team, content, SEO, and public relations teams. We've got 85 employees. There's a lot to oversee. I tell you all that for a reason, and today that reason is because we're talking about press releases. This will be a bit of a level 101 course on press releases. However, from my experience, a lot of people are interested in knowing about what a press release is and when they should send one, so I thought I'd break it down a bit for you. Just to give us a little starter, let's talk about what a press release actually is, okay? A press release is a very, very formulaic letter that is designed to announce something newsworthy to the media. This could be a new partnership, a big milestone. Let's say your podcast got picked up by a big network or something. It could be to announce a very famous guest that you're having on the show. It could be a rebuttal to something horrible you said on your show or your Twitter account, or even the announcement of a new season of your show. Press releases are sent to news editors, reporters, producers, other podcasters, bloggers, etc., usually via email, sometimes attached as a Word doc, sometimes, unfortunately, attached as a PDF file. Don't do that. I don't recommend you do that because it makes it hard for the reporter to copy and paste that into whatever CMS they're using to file their news. Sometimes people post press releases as screenshots in their Twitter feeds. Sometimes they get faxed. Sometimes people spend 60 cents on a stamp and mail it. But I recommend sending all of your press releases as a text email, perhaps with an image or two, and links, definitely links to the high-res version of the images that you would like to appear next to your news story when a journalist picks up your press release. So now let's have a quick conversation about what a press release is not. And this is very important. A press release is not an ad. I will repeat that. A press release is not an ad. If you want a publication to run an ad for you, buy an ad. A press release is something newsworthy. It's got to be something that this publication, whether it's a website, whether it's a magazine, whether it's a podcast that talks about news about podcasting, the news that you send them has to be something that their audience would like to listen to and not something that would be considered an advertisement. And yes, sometimes those lines blur a bit, but be a good citizen, and in the end, you'll be fine. Where do you send press releases to? I mentioned some of the job titles of who you send press releases to earlier, so that would be, again, reporters, editors, publishers, assignment desk editors, producers, hosts of different podcasts that don't necessarily have a producer. But let's talk about where or to which outlets you should be sending your press release. What you want to do is find the publications that will find your piece of news newsworthy to their audience. So if you have a podcast about, let's say, comic books, you probably already know the websites that write about comic books. You probably even listen to some podcasts about comic books. You may even get a paper magazine about comic books, since usually comic books are still printed on paper and you like to stay true to your cause. And that's great. Find the editors, producers, reporters, etc., who will write specifically about what your news is about and start a list. You may be able to reach out to an agency or PR freelancer and ask them to build you a list for a fee if you don't feel like doing the work organically or with tried and true Google sleuthing. So once you have your press release written and it's been proofread, you take that list that you've developed and you blind carbon copy it to all the people on the list. Now, let's quick talk about who you should not put on the list. Number one, I recommend not aiming unfathomably high. This isn't the Air Force. Sending a press release about your comic book podcast reaching its 1,000th listen isn't going to make it into the New York Times. Think about who will find your news interesting in your audience and send that to them only. This is a tight, curated list. You don't want to be spam. Also, be sure to include your contact information in your email and on your press release. Make it very easy for someone to get in touch with you. And this is very important. When an editor, producer, or reporter does reach out to you, get back to them as soon as you are possibly able. Your window of opportunity is very short. Writers are overworked, and you want to have them do you a favor, so you need to be there for them when they get in touch with you. So to recap, your press release should be newsworthy. Your press release is not an ad. Send it as a text email with a photo and link to the high-res version of the photo. Send it to news outlets and shows that typically carry the kind of content and news that you are sending to them, specifically in your niche. Don't bother sending it to the Washington Post or New York Times unless your story is truly newsworthy to them. Always include your contact info and respond quickly to requests from the people to whom you sent your release. And one last one. Use press releases like salt. You don't want to be the boy who cried news by sending something every other week to an overburdened editor. We're getting dangerously close on getting the website up and running. I will create a sample press release for you that you can download and use as a template soon, and I will let you know on this show and on the Twitter page once that's live, and you will be able to look at a sample press release, and I will give you a written version of this podcast so you can use some of the steps when you're creating your public relations lists and sending out that really important news to editors in your niche. And that'll do it for today's episode of Good Morning Podcasters. If you have a question for the show, you can reach out by going to podinbox.com/GMP. That is podinbox.com/GMP. If you'd rather not leave an audio message, my DMs are always open on Twitter for as long as Twitter hasn't burned down. You can reach me at GM Podcasters or at Fuzz Martin. So again, at GM Podcasters or at Fuzz Martin. And we will talk to you tomorrow morning right here on Good Morning Podcasters.